Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Photographer's Favorites. Thanks so much for joining me. This is the show where I pick 5 of my favorite photos from other photographers, and my guest picks 5 of their favorite photos. We talk about everything we love about it, and the best part is we finally get to slow down and take some time with these photos, which so many of us, I'm sure you can relate, rarely, if ever, do. So today, I'm really excited to have Tony Barsotti with me. How's it going, Tony?
Good. How about you?
Going good, man. Going good. Yeah. How's photography been treating you lately?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just been going around. So I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
So I drive kind of just around the Mid-Atlantic region. I'll go up to
Nice.
Jersey and PA. So recently I've been really chasing after short-eared owls, and I
Yeah,
had
man.
seen them probably like 20 or 25 times before I finally got some shots of those that I was pleased with. They
Nice.
either would be too far out in good light, or they would be like really, really close, but in basically after dusk.
Yeah.
So yeah, finally getting
Standard
some
for
of
that
those guys.
species. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the guys out in British
Right.
Columbia. They're
Ridiculous.
out like all day
Yeah. Yeah. And
shooting with like a
and like
100 to 400.
and like high numbers. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. It's amazing how that just kind of changes the dynamic, like where you live and what is common there. And listen, we totally have the thing. I'm sure we have stuff that people over there are totally jealous of. So it,
Yeah.
it goes both ways, but you can't help but just see those other areas and how easy it may seem and just be jealous of it. So I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
By the
other
way,
than that, just going after ducks and stuff on
nice.
the tail end of winter. So
Yeah. 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 It's a good time for them this time of year. I mean, yeah, I love this shot, by the way.
oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was down on the eastern shore in Maryland. There's a wildlife refuge down there,
Yeah.
Blackwater,
Nice. Yeah.
and
Well known for them.
this guy is like always set up on this perch. Like every time I've been there,
No
he's
kidding.
like, yeah, and I guess that's like his territory right there.
Yeah.
There's a nest like across the marsh a little bit, so I assume that that's probably just like its general area. But
Gotcha.
yeah, just such a interesting perch. I don't know like
Right?
how exactly the tree got like that, but
Yeah.
it's it looks
Yeah.
like Dr. Seuss or something.
It totally does. Just very, very mind bending looking perch, like such character on it. And then on top of it, just ridiculous light that you got there. And I love the fact that you're kind of like down and embedded in like the foreground marsh grasses there. It just really gives some really good depth to the image, and kind of makes me feel like I'm right in that, probably awesome smelling marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, and that it kind of touches on what you were saying with the people out in British Columbia. I feel like we're spoiled over here with bald eagles, with conowingo and stuff.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so much so that normally, like when I see eagles now, I'm just kind of like not even that excited by them. So
Yeah.
I almost drove by and didn't take this shot, but the light was just too good to pass it up.
Yeah, yeah. When you get light like that in a situation, yeah, it's hard to not point that camera. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you did, man. It's a really good shot. So
Thanks,
love
man.
it. All right, cool. You ready to get into the show?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. We'll start with the first photo you chose from my good friend Theo, who's certainly been featured on the show before. Man, such a real graphically cool image, but a great use of color too. And the lack of color in the rest of the image just absolutely makes the color of this what parakeet really stand out. And also, such a cool shot, without even reading the caption, which I know I read it when he shared it, but I didn't read it again recently when you sent me this photo. And I'm not even reading it right now, just looking at the photo. This is one of those photos that just really kind of elicits like what's going on there. What's this bird doing? It's such a cool behavioral shot. We can't see its head, we can't see its eyes, its beak, but you can tell it's actively doing something there. And it really makes me as a viewer curious as to what is going on there. And then on top of that, just Theo's amazing with composition all the time. And so, a great job here of resisting the urge to just, crop in here and make it all tight about that, which would probably be a neat shot. But like just the graphical nature of this, having that space and this large line, this crack that the parakeet's clinging onto there, is really cool. And then when you read it here, it's just saying he's just like exploring different parts of this stuff, I guess, which is really amazing. So, yeah, love the shot.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Just like you said, like the the natural like graphic element of it with that. Theo told me that it's actually that the crack in the tree is like a calcified tunnel created by insects. So
Oh,
I
okay.
assume what it's doing is going in and finding insects to eat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great as far as behavior.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the calcified tunnel is just so cool. How it goes naturally up that right third.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, and like you said, like the contrast between the bird and the bark on the tree, and keeping it smaller in the frame with all that space up top.
Yeah.
You can just kind of like tell that the bird was just working its way like right up the tree.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, and I mean species that I've never seen. Obviously, I've never
Same
been
here.
down to South America, so it's always a treat seeing like exotic species like this. But
Totally. Yep.
um,
Yeah, it totally
yeah,
is.
just
Yeah.
that vibrancy of it. Yeah, it's just great shot.
Yeah, I really love what you mentioned about that the space up top and it giving it room for in the direction where the bird is probably heading, and it almost gives a sense of anticipation of where that bird's going to go next. Having that space up top, and I think it's interesting. He maybe could have played with putting the bird up here in the frame and having more space underneath of it to show where it came from, kind of thing. But it's kind of cool how sometimes to me a composition can tell a different story like that. Like this one is more anticipation of where it's going, versus maybe anticipate or where it had come from, kind of thing. And who knows, maybe the thing was working its way down, I don't know, but I choose to believe that it was kind of moving its way up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's as far as like not being able to see the eyes or like any of the facial features of the bird. I think that this is a shot that a lot of people would overlook for that
Mm-hmm.
reason, especially on Instagram. It's like Instagram, I feel like we get so caught up in trying to get like that really tight close-up shot,
Yeah.
but and like all the detail in the face, like you want that sharp eye, but here it just works so well. Like just you don't need any of that.
Yep.
So
Yeah, very much agree. Very much agree. All right, excellent. Let's check out the next one. Some color for you.
yeah, this is great. The framing, obviously, right off the bat, that foreground blur is just like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get plants like that with so much color, it's just such a cool effect. And then obviously the bird facing over that way,
Yeah.
really draws you. It feels so balanced. You've got that natural curve just framing the bird, and also the contrast between the yellows of the petals of I assume they're flowers,
Yeah.
and the background where it's a more cooler blue and
Mm-hmm.
green, just works really well. You get that nice natural gradient as it like softly fades between the two. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
totally agree.
really nice looking bird.
It is. Yeah, I don't even know the course.
It says white throat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so something that I
Nice.
don't think we have over here. It kind of looks
No.
like a peewee or something.
Yeah, the European species are always pretty neat to see. And yeah, man, I completely agree with everything you said on that. Especially, I really like what you mentioned about the natural curve of the foreground here, and then it's really cool how this kind of towers over top of it too, just kind of wraps it right in there. Feels like it's just straight up just nestled in that little crook of in focus and out of focus flowers, and just perfect bird position and everything. Yeah, I got nothing else to add, man. It's such a great, clean photo and just vibrant.
Yeah, and it's nice how the out of focus foreground works together with that sliver of in focus uh,
Yeah.
foliage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty neat how they
Yeah,
frame
it's
that.
the same line, right? It's the
Yep.
same angle and everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really like, man, it's the kind of stuff that I feel like, no matter how much you plan and try to look at a shot and make everything just right, like those kinds of things just happen in the moment, like it's just it's nature growing the way it is, or layering up in the way you happen to be standing. And more often than not, obviously I think he very carefully placed himself to get this foreground blur and that sort of thing. But I'm gonna guess, at least let me put myself in that situation. I wouldn't be noticing that line matches that line. Like, that's not something that I would notice at all while shooting. I'd probably just be paying attention to how much am I gonna, obscure this bird or not, and where I kind of place it right in that little opening there. So it's neat when you get to see the photo after the fact and you're like, oh gosh, look at all these extra things that kind of worked out in my favor that I didn't even notice, and nature just kind of added into me, or into the photo. Because so many times it works the other way too, where it goes all against you. You're like, oh, if it wasn't for this, and this shot would be great.
That one branch.
Exactly.
Always that one branch.
Yeah, that one branch, or sometimes those 15 branches, or the ones that you don't see because they're just out of focus enough that you didn't see it in the moment. But then you get back, you're like, oh, it's a big blur right through the photo, like the bird. Like, what the heck happened?
Yep.
Yeah. So
just really clean shot. Yeah.
It really is, yeah. And the soft light works perfectly, It just allows no shadows anywhere. Seamless blend from the out of focus foreground flowers and the background flowers. Like, everything just kind of merges together there. Whereas if you had some directional sun in there, while it could be nice and dynamic, I think it would maybe, take away from just the kind of softness and the overall vibe of the shot. So works really
and
well.
Even with that blend between the foreground and the out of focus yellow in the background, there's still like enough delineation between the two.
You're right.
You get that depth.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't just all blend together.
Yep.
So yeah, just all around great shot.
Yeah, I think that's right before we leave this. That's a perfect description and word for this shot is depth. There's a lot of depth going on here in this, which is not easy to achieve. Oh, wow, man. Yeah. Look at the drama of that. Like, the tones are great. Just such an absolutely great edit too on this one. This is one that I think definitely stands out due to its post-processing. Just the right amount of subtle light on the screech owl to begin with. Then you get that real nice dusky vibe. I love the little pop of yellow eye. The yellow and blue color tones to me are always such a great, pleasing, complementary colors together to see in an image. So it's neat to have all of this, and not just out of focus, like nicely textured out of focus blue and kind of into the cyan and green color area over there. And then just all of a sudden that pop of yellow on this side, which is funny because if you split this photo down the middle, other than the eye, the left side of the photo has like no color and the right side is just all color, which is really cool. And then just a really nice burn and darkness around the perimeter here, but not to the point of where we can't see detail. So that's where I think it's really good, right? It's a nice dark burn, but we can still see the detail there. That kind of just, it really brings your eye in here. And, I'm making some assumptions here and some guesses based on just my experience with, not photographing owls, but just photographing scenarios like this. And, it's the kind of thing where, like, if this bird is lit up that much, well, so is this, so is the bark and the tree right next to it. So this is the kind of thing where an image can be kind of maybe a little flat right out of the camera, but having the vision and the ability to post-process and take it in the direction of this, where the owl stands out, there's some kind of almost direction to the light there, but it still looks natural, and it's not just like, oh, he just took like some black paint and just like scribbled it around the edge kind of thing. I think it really shines in this photo. It's a great example of that. And the last thing I want to say is I really actually like how there's no eye contact on this. It doesn't feel like an interactive portrait where you're having that connection with the subject. It feels like just a capture of this owl in its habitat, just doing its thing. It's looking off, like maybe getting ready to, like, just waking up to go hunt for the night kind of thing. So it's got a really cool vibe to it.
Yeah, that's definitely how it feels. But yeah, just I remember coming across this shot in my feed when he first posted it, and like, Clint is a fantastic photographer, just like all around. His stuff is so diverse.
Yep.
and it seems like he just kind of has like everything down to a science.
I
Like
know.
he's got flight shots. He's got like one of the best kingfisher in flight shots I've like ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one really stood out for the same reasons that you mentioned. The processing, obviously, right off the bat. I mean, this is not an easy way to process.
No.
Like I've shot plenty of screech owls in dark, like after dusk,
Uh-huh.
and trying to get that blue, uh, dusky feel right, just like
Mm.
is so difficult to do. You really gotta have that condition like off the bat. But yeah, it just the way that it's divided down the middle, really desaturated on the left side, and the way that the bird just blends in, you still get that nice camouflage
Totally.
aspect. Like that's always like one
Yeah.
of the coolest things with these birds is like the way that they just naturally blend in. Like it always
I
blows
wouldn't
my
know. I've
mind
never
that
seen one.
yeah, it's crazy. Like I don't know how they know that what they're perched
Yeah.
on actually looks like them,
Yeah.
but like they just know, and they blend in so well. But yeah, the vignette is done really tastefully.
Yep.
It's not overdone. It naturally draws your eye to the bird's eye. There's just enough pop there with the yellow coming through.
Totally.
Normally, like with screech owls, it's so cool seeing them like wide eyed and seeing like their pupils like just gigantic when it's
Sure.
dark like this. But yeah, it's just getting that little sliver of the eye is really neat because it does show like the behavior of this bird, that it was like probably just waking up, just getting active.
Hmm.
But yeah, just all around the patterns in the background that are created. It's that cool like geometric pattern that you get.
It adds a lot to it.
It does, yeah. It's such a cool feeling. Like it's just so ethereal, and yeah, there's
Yeah.
just something about this shot that like it just has so much like mood. There's just
Yeah,
so
that's the
much going
perfect
for
description.
it.
Very
Yeah.
moody. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It elicits a wow when you first see it, when you
Yeah.
see it for the first time. So yeah.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
definitely does.
And the way
All
that
right,
the
cool.
bird just
Okay.
kind of oh, sorry, I was just gonna say the way that the bird just kind of fades out on the its left side.
Right in here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and you
Yep.
get that little bit of blue light on it. It's just yeah, off the
Yeah, it
chart.
almost actually, now that you point that out, I think there might even be some like foreground blur from something that he's shooting through that kind of just softens that edge there and just kind of helps, just really again just immerse you in to that this owl's habitat, which is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, getting a little brighter and cleaner. In your face, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, wood ducks are just like any good close up shot of a wood duck
Yeah.
is a win in my book.
Yep.
But yeah, this is great. I love the dynamic like motion of it calling.
Yes.
You get that nice eye contact. Yeah, and just filling the frame. Obviously, it's great, and the iridescence of the plumage is done really really well. It really captured that well, which is not easy to do, but I think that the
No.
light really helped. And like the whites aren't clipped at all.
Nope.
It's just yeah, really really good. I like how tight this is, like how cropped in it is. You get that little bit of reflection at the bottom,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really really nice. And getting a close up look at these guys is pretty pretty difficult. So
Yeah, it certainly can be. I'm lucky that I have an area near me where I've traditionally photographed them that they're just habituated to people. So you can just get, I've shot headshots of them at like 300 millimeter.
yep,
But yeah, anytime I experience wild wood ducks, very different story.
yeah,
Very different story. And thankfully, actually, some of my favorite shots have come from encounters outside of that area, which is nice. But yeah, it's funny. Like, tight, close portraits are generally not my thing. Like they generally just don't kind of wow me anymore. Not that I hate them or I think they're bad or anything. It's just I've seen so many over the years. I've taken so many over the years that it takes a lot to kind of get my attention. But something about this one just kind of jumped out at me, and I think it's a lot of the points you hit on. Just perfect soft lighting here that just shows off the details ideally. And yeah, it's the calling pose. I think the head turned and calling. It's just turned so right, yet the bird's swimming head on at you. I love the subtle curve of the water that shows that he's swimming towards you, so you get that wake pushing out in front of the bird, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean, just a great use of depth of field. I'm not sure what aperture he shot this at, but it looks like maybe it was closed down a little bit because this looks close. And I mean, I would say, the tip of the bill is maybe a tiny bit soft, but all the way on the back of the head is still pretty sharp. So like, I typically shoot wide open at f4 all the time. So if I shot this, like, the eye would be sharp. That would be about it. Everything else would probably be like the bill would be totally soft. The back of the head would be totally soft. So this is a great example of sometimes it pays to not do that. Or at least I'm assuming. I don't know. I mean, he also could have just got lucky, like the head's turned just right that it kind of keeps most of it in focus there. But this photographer, Mike, he spends a lot of time with waterfowl up where he lives. I forget where. He's up in the northern part of the country.
This is Southern Ontario.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. And so, he spends a lot of time doing waterfowl and usually gets a lot of really good variety. So anyway, this one just jumped out at me. Have you had much experience with wood ducks?
Yeah, I've shot, I think, at the same spot that you were talking about.
In Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and it's great up there, but as far as like encounters with wild ones, not so much. And
Gotcha.
it's just so much more thrilling. Like,
Is it?
I mean, it's great getting the shots at that spot. Like last time I was up there, right as the pandemic was starting, I visited that spot. And I had a female that just like literally, I was shooting with the Sony 200 to 600 at the time, so the minimum focus was pretty close. And this thing just came right up, like, and was within my minimum focus distance, just like calling.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. But there's just, if this is like a more wild duck, then there was a lot of work that went into getting the shot. And
totally.
It definitely paid off.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It is great to go to that location. It's great to see them that close. It's great to get those photos just to see all, like we see here, just the subtlety of the plumage. You get every little detail because they're gorgeous ducks. So it's great to do that. But the experience is so much better when you get that wild duck, that wild experience, which is usually the case with anything. So, and it's not to say I won't go take that easy choice every once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you need that quick win.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you've been having a rough run,
Yeah.
Oh man, look at that. It's so ghostly. That's like the word, just shooting through the foreground. Man, this is a great decision to keep the shot and notice that there's something there. Like I could just see myself being like, there's too much in the way and just toss, because maybe the next shot is more in the clear or something like that. But this is one that is so well done. We can still see the outline of was it Great Gray?
Yep.
Yeah. We can still see like all the details of the bird perfectly. The wings are really nice and sharp. And then also, at least for the majority of photos I see of them here in the US is winter. So it's always just, gray, snow, browns, just those tones. So to see this in such a lush green environment with just green screaming off the page at you is really different and neat. And so, just a great behavioral shot with the flight, heading right out of the image there like that. Just gorgeous textures in the foreground. I love shooting through stuff like that. Again, I mentioned it earlier with some things that you kind of can't predict that you'll get in a photo, and shooting through some foreground stuff certainly falls into that category for me, where you kind of are you may have an idea of what you're going to get, but you never know exactly what you're going to get until you see that final image. And there's something really fun to that in taking photos that way compared to, just a clean portrait that what you're looking at is what you're going to get kind of thing.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The biggest thing for me was what you touched on, that like normally around in the US, like it's all like shots from Minnesota or like just over the Canada border in winter time when they come down south a little bit. So to see one in like I would assume that this is either spring or summer in that
Yeah.
vibrant green. You it just tells so much about the behavior of the bird and really gives you like context for where this was taken. I know that in like Sweden and Norway, places like that, like these guys are there like year round.
Yep.
So getting them nesting is probably what this one was doing. I would imagine it was probably hunting
Yeah.
to take food back to the nest. But yeah, it's just such a cool look. Like I don't think that I've ever seen like a great gray shot where it was in like such a lush, like vibrant green setting like
Agreed.
this. Um, but then like also to just be able to track this thing like behind
Yeah.
all that in flight.
Yeah.
I mean that's it's not easy. Like these guys move pretty quickly. They're not the hardest thing to shoot in flight, but um, they're still fast enough that if there's that barrier between you
Yeah.
that your camera can like lock onto pretty quickly, like you have to lock focus on that thing and just pray that it's not going to shift.
Yeah.
So the fact that he managed to keep the bird, like it's obvious that the bird is like absolutely like tack sharp.
Oh yeah, totally.
Still have
Yep.
enough contrast there, and yeah, it is ghostly, like you said. Like I never even noticed it, but yeah, it kind of gives you that feeling where it's like almost transparent because of
Yep.
the way that the foreground just overlays
Kind of fades
the
on it.
bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then you
Yeah.
get
And
like that little the wingtips are just like
the
completely.
clearest part.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of neat that that is the clearest part. It's also the most detailed part of the image and the bird, just with each primary feather sticking out there, and then the brown white pattern right there. So it's just like, I mean, this is the attention grabbing area, and so yeah, how interesting to have like the instant impact and focal point of this image to be wingtips like that,
Yep.
which we'll revisit again later in another photo, which is cool. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it's such a different feeling to the photo when you first see that, and then you take your time with it, and you're like, oh yeah, there's the head, there's the eyes, and it almost looks like maybe it has. I guess it's just maybe like the beak sticking out or something there. But still plenty sharp, plenty detail there. But yeah, there's a slight fade as it goes out. So really cool how it fades into those wingtips like that. And yeah, and like you said, a technically unbelievably difficult shot to capture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pattern that you get with the background there is
Love
just
it.
so cool that it seems like a natural vignette too, like the darkness on the right.
Yep.
Like it could have been burned, but it doesn't seem like it was like burned that much.
Yeah, no, it just seems like it was probably just darker trees or denser trees at that point,
Yep.
coming through. And then I'm guessing based on the light, I don't know, does this look overcast to you, or is it like a little soft backlight to it maybe?
It seems like soft backlight. Yeah.
I would think so, just with the way we're getting some glow through the through some of this foliage. So it's just some brighter areas, and there's maybe a little glow around each feather back there, so it does kind of feel that way, which probably adds just even more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too. I've totally seen photos from the U.S. or of summer great grays, with their fledglings and stuff like that, but they're always in just kind of like coniferous forests and stuff like that, which are more that like that toned down duller gray. So yeah,
Yep.
or green is what I mean to say. So even when you get them in summer around here, it's just like you said, I've never seen this type of color in an image of this species. So it's certainly a standout.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's see what we got next. Oh, mixing it up.
That's awesome. Like I
Isn't it?
don't think I've ever seen highlights captured like that, like out of
Nope.
focus highlights captured like that. Like I would assume that it's I guess it's just because it's so close that you're getting like overlapping highlights, but the way that they're elongated is so cool. It looks like flames almost.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it was street lights, he said, off of the water and whatever else was there, like yeah.
It's so cool. I
It
mean,
is.
yeah, the frog is almost like not even like the focal point for me. It's like that
Yeah.
background is just so cool. But yeah,
Yeah, and the tones of it.
yeah, Yeah, and you can see, like, now that you mention it, I can see the reflection of the street light in the eye and like on its nose. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's man, that is just unreal.
that's a cool macro. Yeah, this one
That
jumped
is
out at me. I was like, oh, I got to save that one.
Yeah, yeah. I used to shoot macro like all the time when I was
Oh, you
younger, like
did?
when I was first getting into it. Yeah, I was like
Nice.
really not so much like frogs and stuff, but yeah, I had the Nikon 60 millimeter
Yeah.
macro lens,
Yep.
and I would just go around. The one thing that I loved shooting was like oil slicks like on pavement. It was just
Yeah.
so cool getting like really close, but yeah, never anything like this. But now this makes me like shots like this make me want to get back
Right.
into macro a little bit.
Totally. I know.
So
But then you realize quickly when I go and try, I'm like, oh, well, I'll never photograph anything like that. Or at least
yeah,
not quickly, you know? I'm like, oh, wait,
yeah,
this is way more work. I can't just go out and just grab a shot like this.
yep, yeah. And I mean
Uh,
like getting that close to like even frogs. I mean like they're pretty skittish. So
yeah.
I don't know like what focal length 105 millimeters. So that's
There
not
you go.
like
Yeah.
terribly close.
No.
Um, but yeah, just so cool.
Yeah. Long exposure, too. Half second.
Oh wow.
Yeah, f5, which for macro is super shallow depth of field, and that was one of the other things that really stood out to me. I loved how only the foreground eye is in focus.
Yep.
Most herp photographers and insect photographers and macro photographers usually try and get a little bit more depth of field there. Not always, but that's generally what you're seeing. You generally see like trying to get the whole subject in focus, but the photographer in this case just went, I'm going to pick what's going to be in focus here, go with the shallow depth of field look. And I love how the second eye is already pretty out of focus back there. So it really just slams your attention in on this eye. And yeah, this is, I kind of do agree with you. Like the background is almost the star of the show here, but it is a beautiful wildlife photo. And I've totally had that comment given on some of my photos where it's like, oh, I feel like the background is overtaking the subject here in some of my own photos. And sometimes I think that is okay. I think that can work, this shot with just, maybe if it was just smooth blue back there, it's nice,
Yeah.
but it
Not
doesn't have
as.
that same impact, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So I think if your background can keep your attention longer on your photo and then maybe let the viewer kind of then maybe secondarily even spend more time with the subject, I think it's a win,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just I've never seen a crazy highlight pattern like that with whatever it's reflecting off of. It's absolutely ridiculous. And color tone wise, it's great. And just like the owl we had earlier, the screech owl, just the right exposure. It's dark but detailed, so it's got that night vibe to it. But it's not too contrasty and blacked out. It's not pushed too far to be too bright and look unnatural. It feels just right to me. And yeah, I would love to see this like huge on a wall or a screen just to appreciate like the details in the eye and then that
Yeah.
crazy pattern.
Their eyes are always so cool. Like
Aren't
there's
they?
something about like amphibians and
Yeah,
reptiles' eyes that are just like it's like metallic. Like the
insane.
yeah, but yeah, and also like ISO 125 is pretty impressive. Like
Yeah,
that shows me that like this photographer spent like a lot of time trying to get something like this,
yeah,
or at least shooting these frogs in low light, because like if this is your first time shooting, like you want to get the shot and you're going to have your
yeah.
ISO cranked up to like 3200. Like you're not going to go for the long exposure.
For the
um
half a second shot. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and I know that from screech owls. Like when I first found some, I was shooting at like 10,000
just
ISO.
Grain City, right?
Yeah, and now I have shots where it's like I'm gonna do a 20-second exposure at like ISO 200 because I know these
Yeah,
things sit completely still. Like it's just like knowing the behavior of what you're shooting,
totally.
just gives you so much more freedom over your settings. So
Yeah, definitely.
really,
And then
really,
yeah, I'd be really curious to know too if the look of this background and the way things are elongated and kind of just very interesting pattern has something to do with that half a second exposure. I wonder if there's if the water here had some kind of movement to it, and and this is what the result is at a half a second versus maybe it would look more standard and traditional like what we're used to seeing if it was a shorter exposure. It'd be really interesting to know, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That seems like it's, now that you mention it, that seems probably like what was going on. Like it's almost
Yeah.
just like motion blur was creating this cool pattern. But
Yep.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
It is
so
like,
so cool.
it's like icy fire.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Totally. Yeah. Anyway, I loved it. It jumped right out at me when I first saw it.
Yeah, great shot.
Nice. Oh, I love this one. The first thing that jumps out at me, just such a great use of a man-made object. Something that I kind of, shy away from myself most of the time, but sometimes it can be just right. I love the placement of the wire just above the horizon line here. Tonally, this image works so well. The soft light like that. Just a real nice glow of sunset, sunrise, one or the other in the background. And such a cool species too. I mean, my gosh, to see one perch, I've never seen one perch. I've only ever seen them flying. And, you kind of don't get the same feel of what these birds look like when you just see them kind of shooting by in the dusk and dawn sky. So yeah, I love that. Great composition. Just dropping the bird right on the third on the right there, so we got plenty of space in front of it, and just such a clean shot. It was just zero distraction outside of that that nice tight wire going right through the middle of the image. And then also, I'm guessing like based on the spacing here, this poor bird landed like right on. He's got like one of these spines right in there somewhere.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like looking for that fourth one.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much everything that you said. The barbed wire, I feel like it. I don't know much about common nighthawks, but I know that nightjars in general tend to roost on like horizontal perches. The only one I've ever seen in the wild was a eastern whippoorwill, and it was like perched on like a completely horizontal cedar branch. So
cool.
I'd assume that it's probably like similar. I don't know why they do that, but it's a cool touch that like you get that. But yeah, I don't know if these guys like normally perch on barbed wire or man-made objects, but if it's like I know that the loggerhead shrikes down in Florida.
Oh yeah, I love them on that. Yeah.
Yeah, they like there it makes sense. So if this is like something that they traditionally go to, then yeah, I mean
it tells a story of that species at that point.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, the light is great. You get just enough light on the bird to the point that it's not too dark and almost silhouetted. But I mean that gradient in the background is just like so good. Vance is like his progression as a photographer is just like really really impressive. Like
and annoying.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, I'm kidding, but yeah, it's amazing to see people grow so like just explode so quickly. It really is.
Yeah, I mean his stuff has just like gone from. I mean it's always been good, but this was like his stuff has just gotten really really great.
Very much agree.
I mean, just a fantastic shot.
Yep.
When I reached out to him for this shot, he said that he got it printed. So
nice.
I'm sure
that's cool.
That probably looks great blown up.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any examples of your own photos that you really love that have a man-made object in them?
So just the other day, the one short-eared owl photo that I posted, it was that guy. He was posted up on this it was like a wooden post out in the middle of this farmer's field. And around here, like I've seen them on natural perches, but it's very infrequent.
Sure.
And it's in like more of a marshy environment, but yeah, they tend to just perch up on these things. So I feel like in this case, like it works. Like it's kind of the natural behavior for them. So it doesn't feel like it's like out of place. I mean, I'd prefer it to be on a natural perch, but like at the same time, it's like
you did a good job of obscuring some of it with some foreground there, so it's not just all in focus perch like the whole way down, just being bold and kind of in your face. It's a lot more subtle, just kind of how it fades in just a little bit there. So I think that's a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, let's go back. All right, here we go.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Gray's another one who's like
exactly
his progression is just like really really great to see. Yeah, I always love seeing his stuff in my feed. But yeah, this is great. Assume uh, okay, crow or raven. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, there's just enough there to know that it's like one of those species. But
Yep.
yeah, the monochromatic look here is so nice. Yeah, I mean compositionally this is great too. The
Yeah.
pattern that you get with the like twiggy trees that it's perched on
Yep.
works really well. But I also like that it looks like it's like 3x2,
Yeah.
2x3, yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
Which normally like Instagram, I feel like when I do
Hates that.
vertical, I do 4x5. I think is like
Yeah.
the
That's what
tallest
it
I'll
wants.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great that he went for the taller aspect ratio because I think it really helps the composition here. Yeah, the small in frame works really well. Yeah, just great. The nice wintry scene.
Yeah, it really is. The vertical, like the standard, 2x3 out of the camera vertical composition, I feel works really well, especially because the crow is almost elongated tall as well. So it kind of just helps exaggerate the height there. All these like the boldest lines on the trees are all vertical, and it just, man, like a fresh fallen snow clinging to the trees makes such a difference. Like this scene, even if the background trees were covered in snow, if these front trees weren't or didn't have as much snow on them, all these lines would be so much more bold and in your face, I think. Whereas this snow pattern really helped to just kind of make them more subtle. And so the only bold thing in this image is that crow calling out. I just love like you said, the subtle texture back there. This is another photo that has some really good depth to it. Um, you know, this image I think would totally work against just a white sky, but like having those trees kind of almost look like on a hillside back there, just kind of a distant hillside type thing, works so well and much better in my opinion. And yeah, just instead of just sitting there, like the calling out pose, I feel like I can almost put myself there and just be in like that dead quiet you get from snow, and then just hear this, crow or raven just calling out loud. It just would be a really cool experience to be there. So this kind of transports me there, which I really like.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, they're as a species, I think that they kind of like lend themselves to a scene like this where it's
Yep.
cold, because like their call is just kind of like grating.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, it really evokes a cohesive mood, I think, throughout like the entire scene. So
Very much. Yep.
and
All right.
not a species that I would really focus on either.
No.
Like I think it's easy to overlook birds like that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever targeted any crow or raven species, but when they're around and cooperative, I will, because they tend to be tough. The few times I've tried to work with them, they're just incredibly smart birds, so they're not easy to get close to a lot of the times unless they are going to allow it themselves.
Yep.
Yeah. Love this shot. It's funny. I was really glad that you sent this one over because I just had him on the podcast, on the Wildlife Photo Chat podcast, and we talked about this shot and him sharing it and all that. So it's really cool to see this because, the first thing I had a conversation with him and I kicked off because he shared it on Instagram or maybe shared it in a story. That's right. I think he shared it in a story and said, just mentioning something about, it wasn't like an Instagram friendly shot. And I just wrote him back and was just like, why not? It's an amazing shot, and we started this whole conversation, which was great. So anyway, love the gradient light in the photo, like the light spot, like light background to the darker mid-tone background on the left there, I think is really great. I think the original composition I saw from him was a horizontal composition, so it had even more space. But just love the sense of this country road, and it's a road that is, not like a nice clean paved road, but it's obvious that it's a road, so it's still got that almost natural feel to it, because it just kind of blends in with the surroundings, or the edges of that road. Love that it's a nice male with the nice dark black wingtips there, which really stand out in the scene. And tonally, like everything is just matching quite nicely here. We just have some nice grays, browns, and then almost like like a hint of like a magenta cast across the entire thing, which kind of, you know, makes it feel like maybe there was like a little pink tones in the sky from, I'm guessing, sunset or sunrise, whichever it was, morning or evening. And yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know, you know, him and I had an entire conversation about this with Instagram, and what do you do? Do you share the image how you intended it, or do you share it where it may get more exposure on Instagram? I'm very much in the share what you intended camp, but I totally get the argument from the other side of things. So, you know, it is, I totally get the dilemma there, but I'm glad he shared it anyway, because I think it's a beautiful shot, and even on Instagram, it still works well for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stuck out to me with this shot, besides like the really nice color palette, is the depth of field. That sliver of road that you get, like it almost feels like a tilt shift shot.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, it and the way that like pretty much everything else in the scene is out of focus. Like
you're right.
besides that little strip, and the bird obviously, is just really really cool. Not something that you see very often. And the small in frame here works really really well.
Yeah.
Normally like shots like where the bird is like crossing over a road or something, I feel like they're pretty tricky to make them effective. But this one, it works really well. Like you get that nice little texture at the bottom there. And yeah, I mean, it just works. Like everything about the shot just works. I love that the bird is flying towards that like really bright highlight.
Yes.
Like you get that, like there's just so much there with like as far as like the dynamic range between the entire scene. Also a really unique looking harrier. Like I've never seen one that's like this bright white or bright gray.
Clean.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking bird.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, like how you said, getting that little like the black on the wingtips just gives you a little bit more to identify the bird.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just really really nice.
Yeah, and calls attention to it too because of that soft light, the color palette, and everything. The tonal match from the background to, you know, its head and body. Without those darker tips, you know, it's almost kind of just fades in into that background. But that just really, I mean, just immediately grabs your attention there. And I love what you mentioned about like the only other thing being in focus is the road along the bottom there. It's a nice touch. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, last image. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Something very different.
Colin's stuff is awesome. I was wondering what shot it was going to be when I saw it in the tab bar at the top. Yeah. I was like excited to see which one. This is like a really unique shot for Colin too, because I feel like his work usually is more like close up portraits.
Yep.
So to see stuff like this, he does it from time to time, but I feel like it's like pretty infrequent. So it's always a treat when shots like this of his show up. But yeah, I mean the fact that you get the crossing of the wings there, each with their like it's almost like those water droplets are like perfectly positioned.
Like come on, one water drop on each wingtip. Like come on,
like the same spot on both.
Right?
It's
just
so
insane.
Cool. Yeah, and then I mean the fact that like you still have enough there to identify that it's a golden eye.
Love that.
Works. Yeah, like you still get that golden eye like in the background there. So cool. I mean they're just such a cool looking species.
They really are.
But yeah, this is fantastic. Yeah,
takes so much vision and a good eye from the photographer to press the shutter on this image. You know, birds turn clean away from you. It's obviously close based on the depth of field here. How many people are not even bothering to even think about shooting, you know, let alone to see this little detail there. And yeah, I mean, Colin is just, you know, he's one of the tops, just master of, you know, close frame filling, in your face, clean shot, beautiful, tack sharp, great light every single time. And it's funny, like that kind of consistency of amazing photography, it starts to it's just so consistent. It's like, oh yeah, it's another great image from him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's, if I saw his, if you throw one, pick any of his standard images and chuck it in the feed of any other photographer, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really nice, you know. But from him, it's just so much of that consistency that it's hard for that level of work to stand out. So yeah, same thing here. When I saw this image, I was just like, oh, stop me in my tracks. Also, and the thing that really stopped me in my tracks was just like the thought to press the shutter button on this one, to see that little detail. And, you know, it's funny. I asked him for permission to share this photo. He's like, I'm so glad you chose this. He's like, it's one of my favorite, but it was pretty poorly received on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, they don't know what they're missing, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's the kind of thing though, like this is an image. And again, I've said it countless times on this show, but this is one of my favorite things about this show and doing this is an image that is appreciated when you slow down. This isn't an image that just, you know, grabs your attention when you're scrolling by really quick. I mean, it did for me anyway, because I'm always, I guess, you know, that's usually what I'm looking for, is I'm looking for the odd, the different, the unique, you know, when I am scrolling through Instagram. But yeah, this was one that I was just like, instantly just like the water drops, like just, I'm like, are you kidding? Like the odds for that to happen, like I don't think anybody understands how difficult of a shot this is to take or to have happen, and to have the wherewithal to press that shutter button. And then just a great edit. You know, the background kind of fades in some darkness there, soft light, like you said, head turned just enough so we can see species anyway. So all those things just come together that just make this like such a great photo. And then like just the crossing of these wingtips is just so like dainty and soft, and just like such a little detail that we never see. I mean, who else would, how often have you ever seen the wingtips of a goldeneye or any waterfowl highlighted in an image? It's always, you know, their face, their head, their eyes, you know, because that's where the wow factor is. But this to me just was like, man, it just, I love when a photographer appreciates the overlooked part of or species in general, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, to even see like the potential in this shot is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, if a duck is swimming away from me, that's like, I'm not going to take it
Yeah.
because
I'm
it's,
not even pointing my camera.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm just frustrated at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Away, but yeah, this is just so cool. The little reflection you get at the bottom too, like
Yep.
it's just such a nice composition.
It is.
There's so much room up top, versus the where your eye is drawn to those
Yeah.
two drops.
Yep.
But it still feels so balanced. I don't know if it's because of the bird, seeing its head take up more space there.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I
But
would
yeah, it
agree.
just feels natural.
It does. Yeah, you know, there's a nice soft, just kind of like mountainous, like cone shape here of everything, you know, that just
Yep.
it really does. It fits in there quite nicely and balances perfectly. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought that would be a
I think it
great
kind
way
of
to end this one.
naturally draws your eye down.
It does.
Yeah,
It definitely
definitely.
does. Yeah. Well, that's it, dude. We did it. Thank you so much, man. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure thing. What do you have coming up in the near future? Any plans for photography? Anything specific, or just waiting for spring?
Mostly waiting for spring. Still going to go out obviously and try to get short-eareds while they're still around. There's still a couple that are
Nice.
like lingering around here, but yeah, and then ducks. But I'm really excited for warblers.
Yeah.
Been spending time going on eBird and looking at the bar charts and stuff, trying to figure
Nice.
out different spots to go to. So I think I got some picked out in Maryland to hit for some species that I haven't seen. I'm really hoping for some good shots of Blackburnian.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice. Yeah. Is that a species you've seen before or just haven't seen?
I think I've seen one like in fall migration, but it was
Okay.
in like its fall plumage. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still cool looking, but it's just like
Sure.
a yellow bird, like
Yeah.
a pale yellow
Yeah.
bird. So
Yep.
seeing one in its breeding plumage is like pretty high on my list. They're just such
I mean, yeah, the
beautiful
first time
birds.
you see one, you're just like, for real? Is that possible? Yeah. It's just insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
wanted to get out more last spring, but with the pandemic, I was just kind of like a little paranoid to
Yep.
get out. So, and it
Yep.
was like right when like
Yes,
migration
it
was
was.
like right at the perfect time.
It was.
So
Well, and a lot of stuff was closed. A lot of parks were closed and stuff like that. So I know it limited a lot of people last year. So yeah, that was going to be my next question is, did you get to spend much time with them last year? But you answered that anyway. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting year then, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. I still got out and got like a couple species I hadn't seen. I got some decent shots of a male Kentucky, which was
nice.
Pretty,
yeah, that's a
pretty
tough
neat
one
to see. Yeah. I heard the call and like recognized it for some reason, and then just whipped out, whipped out my speaker to make sure that that's what it was, and then he popped up, and yeah, he was just kind of bouncing around for like an hour or so. So
that's the best, man. Yeah. Very cool, man. Excellent. Well, I can't wait to see what you come up with. Really looking forward to it. I think just like everybody, especially in the Northeast, we're all looking forward to spring and what it will bring. So it won't be long, that's for sure.
Yep, definitely.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please share this out with all your friends and fellow photographers if you like what you're seeing here. And stay tuned. I'm hoping to have one every Saturday. I'm going to do my absolute best to make that happen. Also, just a real quick plug for some of the other stuff I'm doing. Also, the best place to find all these episodes, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. But also just visit wildlifephotochat.com. I mix these episodes in with the audio podcast episodes there. So you can just kind of go to wildlifephotochat.com and check out all the past episodes of this photographer's favorite show. So that's a great place to check them out. And then I'm also putting out a lot of other video content on my YouTube channel, which all ends up on my website. So check out some of the behind the scenes videos, some of my editing videos, and that sort of stuff. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the next one.